Sir Kazimierz Stanislaus Gzowski, KCMG, was an engineer best known for his work on a wide variety of Canadian railways as well as work on the Welland Canal. He also served as acting Lieutenant Governor of Ontario from 1896 to 1897. Life and career. Gzowski was born in St. Petersburg to a noble Polish father, Count Stanislaus Gzowski, who was then serving as a captain in the Russian Imperial Guard. He emigrated with his family to the United States after the Polish November Uprising against Russia in 1830. He knew no English, but began to study law and was admitted to practice. His father was an engineer, and as this became his primary interest, Casimir became involved in railway construction in the United States. Eventually he was hired as an engineer to help in the construction of the New York and Erie Railway. In 1841 he moved to Canada to work on the Welland Canal, and also helped finish the building of Yonge Street and other projects for the Department of Public Works in southern Ontario. He settled in London. In 1849 Gzowski was hired as a railway contractor by the St. Lawrence and Atlantic Railroad. The new president of this reorganized company, Alexander Tillich Galt, and other directors were dissatisfied with the work of the Montreal contractors. Accepting Galt's offer as chief engineer in charge of construction, Gzowski moved his family to Sherbrooke. The purpose of the St. Lawrence and Atlantic Railway, along with its American partner, the Atlantic and St. Lawrence Railway, was to provide a route for the traffic of the St. Lawrence River and Ottawa River at the Port of Montreal, with the ice-free Atlantic Port of Portland, Maine. By 1850, however, promoters of this project learned of plans by Boston interests to build a railway from Lake Champlain to Ogdensburg, opposite Prescott, on the route of the projected Beatown and Amp-Prescott Railway. In 1850, Galt, along with Luther Hamilton Holton, David Lewis McPherson and other directors of the St. Lawrence and Atlantic, formed a committee which took steps to secure a charter for the building of a railway between Montreal and Kingston. Several possible routes were considered. At a public meeting held in Montreal, the committee delegated Gzowski to make a detailed survey of two routes. One ran through the Ottawa River Valley and the other was about 15 miles inland from the St. Lawrence River. In 1851 the Montreal and Kingston Railway Committee commissioned another well-known Canadian engineer and future associate of Gzowski, Walter Shanley, to make another survey of the Montreal-Kingston route. He decided in favor of the line closely paralleling the shore of the St. Lawrence River and running through Cornwall and Prescott. This was the route adopted by the Trunk Railway between Montreal, Kingston and Toronto. The idea of a railway through the province of Canada had been on the minds of Canadians for some time. The government proposed to build a line from Montreal to Windsor-Etesania for that part of the route east of Montreal. Premier Francis Hincks turned the first sod on Quebec-Richmond Railway, January 7, 1852. The government intended to close the gap between Richmond and Montreal by using the St. Lawrence and Atlantic Railway. Galt and his associates from Montreal obtained a charter for the Montreal and Kingston Railway, August 30, 1851. Francis Hincks turned the plans for the railway scheme over to private interests in 1852, awarding contracts for the Kingston to Toronto section and Montreal to Kingston Railway to the British contracting firm Peto, Brassey Jackson and Betts, a move that led to the formation of the Trunk Railway. While Galt had intended to secure the funds to build the Montreal and Kingston Railway, he did not have the resources to compete with Peto, Brassey Jackson and Betts. Galt and his partners saw great possibilities in the construction of a railway west of Toronto. In 1852, through some skillful financial manipulation, they managed to get control of most of the stock in the Toronto and Guelph Railway, chartered in 1851. Gzowski and en.Co. were contractors of the line between Guelph and Sarnia as well as other sections of the GTR in Ontario and Michigan. In 1856, Gzowski and en.Co. was granted the right to cut timber on the Moon River in Muskoka, likely as a source of materials for railway construction. In 1858, Gzowski was granted timber licenses on the Whitefish River and on the South River in northeastern Ontario. Some of these license records show Gzowski and McPherson were in partnership with another Muskoka lumberman, Walter Moberly, as president of the Toronto Turf Club. In 1859, Gzowski was a prime factor in the creation of the Queen's Plate, the first organized thoroughbred horse race in North America. Sir Casimir was instrumental in organizing the Canadian Society of Civil Engineers, where he served as its first president from 1889 until 1891, and founded Canada's first Rifle Association. He was also the first commissioner of the Niagara Parks Commission. He was knighted by Queen Victoria in 1890, and, as a personal friend of Sir John A. Macdonald, was linked to the Conservative Party, even acting as an interim lieutenant governor before Oliver Mowat took office in 1897. He died in 1898 in Toronto. Legacy. Casimir Gzowski Park, on Toronto's waterfront, commemorates him. On 5 March 1963, the Canadian Post Office issued a commemorative stamp featuring Sir Casimir Stanislaus Gzowski on the 150th anniversary of his birth. Family. Casimir Gzowski was the great-great-grandfather of CBC radio personality Peter Gzowski.